And sometimes big ideas make a big difference. That's what we can do. That's what you can do right now. Look in the mirror, figure it out, go for it.
So good to be seen, and it's even better to see you. What's going on? I hope you're doing well, staying safe. I don't know about you guys, but I am stoked. At the time I am making this video, I just got off Netflix watching it for I think it's the third time already. This thing is trending on number 7 on top 10. I think that is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot imagine how excited Ali and Lucy and Kip are right now. My heart goes out to you folks. I can't imagine what you had to go through to put together such an epic documentary. So if you're watching for whatever reason this gets to you, our hearts are thanking you. Our arms are wide open. We cannot be prouder of you. Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for risking your life to actually put this film together. So on behalf of the entire vegan community, we cannot thank you enough. So check this out. I was actually working out when I saw it for the first time, and you can imagine I was very distracted while I was watching it for the first time because I was so excited. I was so excited to see somebody put together a documentary about the seas. I can't think of one that really pops into my head as far as our oceans are concerned. And I was very excited to see one for the first time added to the many documentaries that we have already out there on Netflix and streaming services and things of that nature, from Cowspiracy to Earthlings and What the Hell, so on and so forth. So I was very excited. I was very entertained. I was very educated. And I wanted to sit down and sort of do a review / takeaway video. I'm not going to review it that much as I am going to share with you a couple of notes that I took while watching it for a second time, pausing and taking my notes. So with that said, I want to share with you these notes. Again, if you are watching this for the first time and haven't actually watched the documentary, I may tackle a couple of spoilers. I'm treating this like a movie because it made me feel like I was watching a movie. So if you haven't watched it already, please do so. Pause this video before watching the rest of it so that you can actually soak in Seaspiracy in its complete form. So let's go ahead and start this off by saying that I felt as though I was watching a movie as opposed to a documentary. Like What the Health, documentary vibe. Cowspiracy, documentary vibe. But at the beginning stages of this documentary, I felt as if I was actually engaged in watching a movie. I felt though this is very suspenseful. The pursuit at the beginning stages, again, no spoilers, not yet at least. And so I was loving how the beginning stages exposed the entrenched governments and even foreign governments and how these giants are the people we're in fact facing. And so I thought of it as a thick plot line, and I loved it because as a content creator myself, I thought that this was going to be a very engaging moment in the documentary. And why do I think that's important? Well, that's because for the people who are not members of the vegan community, it's very important to keep them tuning in. It's very important for them not to click away. And so I saw Ali and Kip and Lucy editing this in a way that it actually incentivized non-vegan people to keep watching, to be educated. And so I thought that was brilliant as far as editing is concerned. I don't know if that was the intention. I don't know if it was done on purpose, but that's actually what I got from it. And I would love to know in the comments right now if you thought it actually gave you sort of like a movie vibe. So now that that is out of the way, I want to go ahead and share the aforementioned talking points that I think are very important to bring to the table because they are completely mind-blowing. I learned so much from them, and I want to take this opportunity to run them by you and let you know what I think about each and every one of them portrayed in this movie/documentary. So check this out. I had no idea that the ocean actually absorbs 4 times as much carbon as does the Amazon rainforest, right? Mind-blowing. I mean, this entire time, here I am thinking that the Amazon is the lungs of the planet. And with the last wildfires occurring in Brazil, we were all reinforced and re-injected with this notion. But at the end of the day, our oceans, right? The beach actually absorbs 4 times as much carbon as thus the Amazon. As a result of that, it accounts for 85% of the oxygen we breathe on a daily basis. I think that the way Kip and Lucy and Ali portrayed the correlation between the oceans and ourselves was done in a very masterful way. I think it was brought to the forefront of how we actually interact with the ocean. And most of us live well inland. We're nowhere near a beach, so we don't really have that connection with our oceans as much as we probably love to. And so I think that in a way it was brilliantly put together so that even if you're living in a farm in Iowa, you can actually relate to what's happening in our oceans. I think that was brilliantly done. So let's backtrack a little bit to the storytelling portion of the movie, as I am calling it, because I think that Ali made a first-person narrative also in a very genius way concerning the fact that he would love to go to places like SeaWorld. I, as a kid, would love to go places like SeaWorld as well, and I was obsessed with Shamu. Remember Shamu? I mean, I just literally told you how old I am. So in order to make that happen, he would share behind the scene footage of him as a kid enjoying the dolphins, swimming and jumping and Shamu and stuff like that. So I think that was brilliantly put together as well because he hooked us in, right? That was a very relatable narrative as far as getting us entrenched into the message he was about to share with us. So I think total kudos to him and the team. So I'm going to take this opportunity to reel off a couple of the talking points that he brought to the table, scene by scene, starting with the fact that bluefin tuna is almost extinct, essentially extinct. I think that he went on record as saying that 99% of this population of fish in the sea is actually eradicated because of the massive amounts of money that commercial fishing is actually getting out of it. As a result, I think that he went on record as saying that one single bluefin tuna could actually go for $3 million in market. That's insane. Like one fish, no more than maybe 3 to 4 feet in length and a foot in width, could actually go for $3 million on the market. And that's why commercial fishing is so damaging, because they're after the money. Later, Ali and the team debunk the myth about shark fin soup. In many parts of the country, specifically Asian countries, it is nothing more than a novelty. It could go for upwards of $100 a bowl with little to no nutritional value, if at all. And so this whole thing about sharks being definned for something that's literally nothing more than just a bowl of meat at the end of the day was also brought to the forefront of the reason as to why sharks are being basically exploited for nothing more than a soup that has no value to you. And in doing so, they brilliantly expose just how important sharks are to the natural food chain. So in other words, they are the top. They eat the smaller fish eat the smaller fish than them, so on and so forth. So if you remove the sharks from the actual top of the food chain, as they are calling it, then eventually it's sort of like a trickle effect. It's a chain reaction, but in a negative fashion. I think that they made it very clear and very easy to appreciate. So moving on, commercial fishing is actually at the forefront of Ali's documentary, and it's definitely being blamed for a lot of problems, specifically massive amounts of fishing, obviously. 2.7 trillion fish a year are killed through commercial fishing. That equates to 5 million fish a minute. That's like heard of. It's just ridiculous. So staying on topic, if we were to do the math, and that's exactly what Ali did, we can expect empty oceans by 2048. Admittedly, even I knew that. I think that's been making the rounds on social media, but let's face facts here. 2048 is not that far off. It's already 2021. So that means that, you know, in 20-something years, we are going to be looking at potential of literally no fish in the ocean. So check this out. Going back to what I was stating earlier in the video, he went on to say that algae, marine plant life, actually stores 20% more carbon than the rainforest, than a rainforest. So that's another mind-blowing statistic that I absolutely have no idea about. You know, here I am thinking that everything on land is way more essential than the ocean, but I failed to remember that the ocean covers way more of the Earth's surface than any landmass, I think, put together. 93% of the world's carbon is stored in the ocean. That is insane. These are, again, these are talking points that I wanted to bring to the surface, because I was so amazed by the math behind the science, and it's just like... So towards the end of the documentary, Ali starts pivoting towards the government, which was not going to be left out of the picture, as you can imagine. And so I want to share a couple of things that he spoke of during the latter parts of the documentary, starting with the fact that government agreed that only 5% of the world's oceans could be protected. In other words, they would refrain from allowing any entity or any company, any business to fish and operate in these areas. And that was actually later debunked by saying that, if I'm not mistaken, 3% of that 5% has illegal fishing in it. So if you were to look at the bigger picture, 98% of the world's oceans are actually being fished, whether it's legally or illegally. That's insane. So here's another mind-blowing statistic. According to the documentary, $35 billion is the amount of money given to fishing industries in subsidies to operate, whereas the United Nations actually states that $35 billion is the amount of money that we would actually need to end world hunger. Like, where are our priorities right now? Let's pivot for a quick second. Did you know 50% of the world's seafood is actually farm-raised, which presents a whole plethora of problems, because although it's not really commercial fishing, it explains that it's the cause for a lot of more mercury, filth, bacteria to be present in seafood during the sustenance of the actual fish growing in a farm, which is disgusting. And so this is where I want to take my hat off to Ali, because he literally stuck his neck out for the truth. He uncovered how organized crime and corruption is at the very forefront of these fishing industries, and how they traffic humans, and how they have slave labor and so on and so forth. So for him to stick out his neck to find out the truth, I think that's nothing short of admiration, at least from me. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but in order to risk your life to bring the truth to light and, get away with it scot-free, apparently, that's just genius. I can't imagine how dangerous it would have been to be out in the open sea and, dealing with these evil companies that at the end of the day want nothing more than money and don't give a crap about what's actually happening to our oceans. I think that was great. And finally, towards the end there, the doctor dispels a couple of myths about fish not being able to feel pain, as with all animals, not having their own hierarchy, and not having societal structures as well as all animals. And so I think that was very important. And if there was anything that I was sort of missing, if there's anything that I necessarily didn't love about it, it's the fact that the documentary wasn't incentivizing the viewer to go vegan as much as maybe other documentaries. And that's okay. I'm not hating on it. At the end of the day, they were banking on the fact that people were probably watching until the end, and at least they made a mention of it. But I would have admittedly loved to see more about veganism and going plant-based and just leaving the animals, specifically the fish, alone. Anyway, those are my thoughts. That's where I am going to leave it. I want to hear from you. Have you seen the documentary? Yes or no? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think, if you did in fact watch Seaspiracy on Netflix. That's where I'm gonna leave it. That's gonna be it for me. I hope you watched this documentary. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, give it a like. Definitely helps the channel out or not. And go V.